What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Occult Review with me, your host, Bellart Wright. And today we're reviewing some Dragon Ball Super, the manga version. We're going to be reviewing Chapter 61, Vegeta Reborn. Again, this thing is written by Akira Toriyama with art by Toyotaro. And of course, we all know that Toyotaro is likely doing the bulk of the writing here, so let's not let that trick us. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. So starting right off the bat, we have Vegeta punching Moro right square in the stomach on the first page, and right after that we skip over to the second page and we have everybody reacting to that. Moro is rocketed back by Vegeta's punch and he's wincing, but it looks like ultimately it does no damage to Moro, and Gohan's surprised by this. Android 18 is talking shit about Vegeta. I don't know why. I think she just has a thing about talking shit about Vegeta. And Moro, he says that he admits that Vegeta's gained a considerable amount of power, but he's saying that it's still not enough to contend with him. Vegeta doesn't really care. He's undaunted by that. He goes right into Moro, throwing some blows at him. Moro is catching these blows quite easily. And right here, Piccolo says the same thing about Vegeta that Goku previously said about him and Gohan in the very last chapter. He says that, or I think it was 2 chapters ago, if I'm not mistaken. He says that Vegeta's gotten so strong that he barely recognizes him, which means that Vegeta is he's so powerful that he's like a totally different person to Piccolo. Meaning, he's quite a ways from his previous power level. Maybe even 1.5 times. And the fact that Piccolo can sense him in his God form is really strange. But again, these guys, they can feel the pressure from the God form, so maybe he's just feeling that. He can probably at this point tell the distinct feel of when a pressure is higher than it was previously, so maybe he's using this to sense. And this was something I theorized a while back as to why a lot of these people were able to sense the powers of the God League fighters such as Goku and Vegeta in the previous tournament. So yeah, either that or Gohan and Piccolo are so strong now that they can just bypass the whole God ritual thing and just sense God power. So I don't really know at this point. We'll have to continue keeping up with the manga to find out. But anyway, Moro is telling Vegeta to submit. He kicks Vegeta away into a mountain, actually into the mountain that Piccolo, Gohan, and Jacko are standing underneath. And Moro starts talking trash. He gives Vegeta a nice compliment. He commends him for elevating his power to such heights. I believe this, combined with Piccolo's previous comment, is letting us know that Vegeta has likely gotten at least 1.5 times stronger than he previously was. My guess is that this guy might even be twice as strong, if not more, than he was before. Vegeta's not looking too happy about that, though. And Moro gives him another compliment, at least in terms of how Moro feels about things. He says that Vegeta will make his finest meal yet. Vegeta's not liking that. He rockets straight forward into Moro with, again, some more punch combinations. Moro is still blocking, but this time Vegeta is so ferocious that it's putting Moro on a bit of a back foot. And everybody's noticing this about Vegeta, especially Gohan, Jacko, and Piccolo. And Gohan asks what's gotten into Vegeta, and Jacko says that maybe he can't accept he's losing, he's going berserk. Piccolo, of course, being the wise fighter he is, he basically gives us the real lowdown into what Vegeta is doing. Piccolo is going to be our source of exposition in this chapter, our source of reliable exposition. He's going to be constantly giving us the truth about what's actually going on. He says, I doubt it. Vegeta's never been one to misread an opponent's strength. Which, even though I just say he's giving us the truth, this is a bit of a idiotic statement, because that's kind of Vegeta's calling card, is always misreading an opponent's strength. I mean, we got starting with Goku. He initially, Goku was busting out some tricks, but yeah, he misread Goku's strength. But that's fair enough. Any of those aliens, they were having trouble with the Earthling's power level anyway, because they could raise and lower them at will. So I'm gonna take that out of the equation. But then we got Namek. He was misreading the strength of. He overestimated himself constantly. such as against the Ginyu Force. But against Frieza, he misread himself. I would kind of give him Frieza because Frieza was holding back and had all these different forms. But he, at the very end, he very highly overestimated himself and thinking he was like some type of Super Saiyan, when really, you know, he wasn't too much stronger than third form Frieza. So, and then we get to Earth, and then we got the androids. Against Android 18, he overestimated her. We get Cell, perfect form, his initial perfect form. He underestimated him. Then we go to Majin Buu. He underestimated Majin Buu. He underestimated, I think, did he underestimate Goku? I guess he didn't know Goku had Super Saiyan 3, so he kind of underestimated Goku. Later, we have him underestimating Hit. It goes on and on. So Vegeta's thing isn't really... Vegeta normally misreads his opponent because he's only like using the surface level of their power. He wasn't always able to sense deeper reserves of power like somebody like Krillin could, for instance. But he's at least gotten better at that. So we continue with the fight with Vegeta and Moro. And Moro is trying to go for this big old grab on Vegeta with his claws and everything like that. Vegeta does this sick dodge, just narrowly missing the attack. And then it surprises even Goku. Goku knows something is up with this. And Vegeta responds after dodging with this super sick and clean backhand punch. It's almost like a slap, but it's with the back of his fist. And then Moro, surprised by this, and Vegeta takes the time to kick him square in the stomach. And then he follows up with another cavalcade of blows. And Moro again goes for this grab, and he does manage to grab Vegeta. And there's a really sick looking, it actually looks very familiar. It looks like Android 16 Hell Flash combination, where Android 16 grabs you by the upper biceps, picks you up over his head, and then slams you down. It's that exact same combination. I wouldn't be surprised if this looked exactly the same too, like if Toro referenced it when he was drawing it. But yeah, and it looks like he's even gonna go for like a Hell Flash type Ki Blast. Really, what I think he's doing with his hands is actually, I think he's about to go for absorption, but for some reason he can't absorb, and we're gonna find out that reason in just a bit. Vegeta gets up from the ground, even after taking that sick combination of attacks. He gets up smiling actually, and Goku says thought so. So Goku knows, again, like I said before, he knows something is up. Vegeta now all of a sudden starts dodging all of Moro's attacks. He dodges one big one. He follows up with a hook, a boxing hook, and then he blocks Moro's kick with relative ease. And Moro is actually having some trouble with Vegeta's punch. Like Vegeta's punch seems to be causing more damage than normal. Like when Moro's blocking, he actually has a look on his face of struggle, like he's struggling with Vegeta's power. And then Vegeta follows up with this humongously powerful kick right to Moro's side. Any other character will probably have their ribs broken by this kick, other than say Majin Buu or maybe Cell or something like that. But this kick is very reminiscent of the kick Android 18 gave to Vegeta, so maybe he learned that attack from her after watching her do it. It definitely looks like Toro might have taken reference from that panel too, because the kick looks very similar from what I'm able to see and what I'm able to remember. And yeah, for lack of a better term, Moro starts leaking from this kick. Basically, the ki from Moro's body starts to fly out of it. And these little globules, they start to fly out of it, start to fly upwards. And Moro notices this. And I don't remember if Moro's ever used a Ki Blast before. Let me know if this is the case. I don't think he's ever used a Ki Blast before, but my memory's not the best. Anyway, he reflexively here uses a Ki Blast, something at the very least is very rare for him. Even if you've seen him do one before, I don't think he's done more than one. And yeah, Vegeta dodges out of the way with several backflips, but you can tell Moro is taken off guard here because yeah, he just reflexively does that Ki Blast, and Vegeta easily dodges it, but it's something that Moro kind of, his back was up against the wall, so that's why he did it. And then Vegeta lands right in front of Goku with his flips, and Goku asks him point blank, like, what's this new technique of yours? And Vegeta, while smiling, says force spirit fission. So fission is a scientific term. It means, I'm not even going to try to explain what it means, but Vegeta's going to give us an explanation of how it applies in Dragon Ball. So again, this technique is called force spirit fission. It's pretty cool. I'm going to give it a couple pages for Vegeta to continue the explanation. We cut back to the fight with him and Moro. Vegeta jumps right back into the fray. He's throwing a bunch of wild punches at Moro. And Gohan is unable to tell if Vegeta's getting somehow stronger, because each of his attacks are now landing on Moro. But Piccolo, again, he's going to be our reliable source of narration. He tells us that instead Moro's growing weaker. And this is right after this, Vegeta lands this big blow to Moro's stomach, and we see more and more energy flying out of Moro and up into the sky. And finally, this is when everybody starts noticing that all the energy is flying up into this huge ball of energy in the sky. Looks like a miniature sun. It looks even more similar to the spirit bomb that Goku used on Namek. And Vegeta continues his assault of Moro, throwing a big kick, rocketing him upwards with his leg. And Moro coughs up even more energy from his mouth, like this huge glob of energy he coughs up. And then we see that Moro has now aged significantly. His beard is growing back. He has more age lines on his face. And we see that glob of energy fly into the gigantic ball of energy in the sky. And then Vegeta flies up and does the classic double axe handle slam that he typically has always done. I used to call that move when I was in high school. I used to call it the Vegeta. I used to call it that in middle school too. The double axe handle slam to the back. Because Vegeta is known for this move. Really, there's been a lot of people in Dragon Ball to do this move. But for me, Vegeta was always the one character I associated with the move, because he used to do it so much. And he rockets Moro to the ground, into the dirt. Then he flies down after him. Moro has aged significantly at this point, and he looks really beat up. There's blood and scratch marks all over his body. And everybody notices that he's back to his old self. And then Vegeta gives us a glimpse into what's actually going on. So he says, all that spirit you stole for yourself, those souls, that life, energy, I've simply liberated it. And then he does this really cool thing with his hands, and he reveals that all the energy, it's all going into that ki blast. Like, I don't know if he makes more of the energy go towards it, but anyway, all the energy starts collecting into that sort of spirit bomb looking thing. And then Moro looks up and notices, and finally the androids notice too. Because remember, they can't sense ki. Piccolo and Gohan and the rest were able to sense it, but the androids weren't. And you know what? I take that back. Vegeta actually disperses the energy blast. I'm just gonna call it a spirit bomb. He disperses the spirit bomb from above and then sends all the energy to the rest of the galaxy. So the first people to notice it are Dende, and then they notice on Yardrat as well. So that means the energy is spreading really, really quickly. And then on Yardrat, the elder Pibara, he says that the spirit energy stolen by that Moro guy is returning to the planets where it came from. And Gohan and Piccolo fly over to Goku, and they check on Goku, and Piccolo asks Goku like what that technique Vegeta using is. And Goku again explains that it's force spirit fission. And he gives us more of an explanation. He says, it tears apart things that were combined through fusion or absorption. Already, we know that this thing is really powerful. Think about that. It tears apart things combined through fusion or absorption. That means that, just based on this line, it means that Vegeta is going to be able to defuse people When it comes to fusions, just, Metamoron fusions, maybe Potara fusions, and most likely Namekian fusions too. Also, fusions like Boo, he could just separate them. But you know what? I didn't think about this till now. It kind of introduces a plot hole because the Supreme Kai and Kibito needed the Dragon Balls to defuse when they could have just gone to Yardrat and had Elder Pibar do it. But you know what? A lot of people don't seem to know too much about the Yardrats except for King Kai for whatever reason. So I won't hold that against it because not even Whis knows the instant transportation, or not even Whis knows the instant transmission. So Goku says he's never actually seen it used before. He just kind of knows about it. And Vegeta continues to just thrash Moro, lands a big punch to his face. Moro's just getting beat up all over the place. And Piccolo's continue to ask about the technique. He says that he asks if it's about he asks if the technique uses the life energy of those Moro has killed. And Vegeta actually speaks up and clarifies this technique. He says that yes, I could even extract those other Namekians you combined with ages ago. Crazy, right? So this confirms that Vegeta can defuse people. He can defuse Piccolo from both Kami and Nail. Think about that. That is powerful. That is powerful. So he also asked Piccolo if he cares to try. He's kind of teasing him here. So this gives us an implication. This gives us a couple implications. The one implication is that Piccolo could possibly be learning this technique later, or maybe it'll be used to split Piccolo from Nail so that Nail can go back to Namek and be a protector for a new Namek. But I don't know. It's really interesting. This whole chapter is interesting. So just letting you know now, 18 minutes in, this is probably going to be a pretty long review because there's a couple of different. This is one of the most interesting chapters yet, I would say. So there's a lot of stuff I'm going to go into and further break down. And yeah, Goku congratulates Vegeta, tells him good going. It was a move he wasn't able to learn. And Vegeta, in classical Vegeta fashion, says of course it wasn't. He says that they underwent the same training, but he's more talented than him. Victory is mine this time, Kakarot. And Goku gives him the he gives him like the rock eyebrow, but also gives him kind of a funny smile. And Moro jumps back into the fight. He charges up, throws another ki blast at Vegeta. I don't know if this is absorption. It's it's like a jagged looking ki blast. I'll make sure to show you guys the panel. And Vegeta just jumps away from it. It does I was gonna say it does explode, but it doesn't look like it does explode. So it might have just been absorption. Anyway, Vegeta easily avoids it, jumps at Moro, kicks him in the stomach. More of that energy comes out. Vegeta still avoiding his attacks. And I'm guessing with each attack Vegeta lands, more and more energy is coming out of Moro. So I think that's what we're seeing here. And Vegeta gives us even more cool tidbits about his personality here. After dodging Moro's attacks, he says, to be honest, this never sat well with me. Absorption, fusion, and all that stuff doesn't reflect one's inherent power. All I crave is a fair fight. So when you think about it, Vegeta's been dealing with BS this whole time, ever since Cell, essentially. He's been dealing with all these enemies that have all these crazy gimmick powers. Think about it. Cell, Boo, God Ki. I guess I wouldn't include God Ki in that. Hit with his time gimmicks. Zamas with his fusions and all types of craziness. All that stuff, man. Vegeta's been dealing with all of that, and now Moro with his crazy gimmick powers. So I get him. It's very frustrating fighting all these enemies with these gimmick powers. And then we cut back to the fight, and Moro finally lands a pretty good hit on Vegeta, but Vegeta does block it. And then he kicks Moro away, and again, more of that energy is coming out of Moro's body. And just before Vegeta kicks Moro away, he says, "Why don't you stop relying on strength stolen from others and simply fight with your own power?" And then he kicks Moro way away. It's really funny. It even makes like a little smoke trail as he's flying away, and then he lands in another pile of dirt. Or is your own power barely enough to keep you standing? So Vegeta's talking all sorts of trash, and with each hit, Moro is aging more and more power is coming out of him, and more power is being restored to the rest of the galaxy, the rest of the universe. And Piccolo again starts asking more questions about Vegeta's training. He asked if Vegeta trained on Yardrat, and Goku says, "Yeah, it seems like it." And more of that power flies past Yardrat. The Yardrats are able to see it in the sky floating past. And then we go to Pibara. He's talking about it. One of the Yardrats asks Pibara if the planets will get their energy back. When the planets do get their energy back, will the inhabitants be revived? So something I wasn't clear about when Moro was eating these planets, I thought he was also destroying them too. I thought when he ate them that they would like implode or something like that. But it seems like he just eats the life force from them. So he eats the life force and the planets are still around, possibly as husks. And then when the energy is restored to them, the planets themselves are restored as well, back to normal. So Pibara gives us more of that explanation here. He says, no, too much time has passed for most of those alien races to come back to life. And this is in regards to the question about the inhabitants being revived. And he says, however, revival should be possible for tribes with potent life force. So potent life force is likely an interpretation of those with strong ki, those with a lot of ki. So these would be characters who have mystic abilities, as well as characters like we see with the main cast, the fighters of the main cast pretty much. And one of that same Yardra asks which he has which ones, and then Pibara says, let me think. For one, and we cut to New Namek, and we see a lot of the Namekians killed by Moro are returning back to life. A lot of them. And one of them asks, what happened to us? And on Earth, Eska, he's so connected with the Namekians spiritually, he can actually sense the Namekians being revived. He even says so. He says, I think a number of Namekians have come back to life. Dende asks how. So not even Dende can sense them, even though they used to be his people. Keep that in mind. And it hasn't been too long since he's actually come to Earth, because from here to Cell is probably a total of maybe 10 years, maybe a little bit more, around about 10, 12, maybe 14 years. But even Dende kind of lost the ability to sense his former tribe. He says, but how? And the younger Eska, he confirms, he says, not the ones Moro killed himself, but the ones who died when their energy got sucked away. So the ones Moro killed are still dead, but the ones who just had their energy sucked away, they're back. And then we get even more confirmation here. Boma says, how's that even possible? Because they've been dead for months. And Eska says something a little bit crazy here. I don't know how I feel about this. He says the Dragon Ball we left behind must have somehow protected everyone, keeping the planet and its life forms from rotting away. So maybe Eska's not sure here. Maybe Eska's in a sense lying. Maybe he's unreliable, I should say, as a character. Or maybe the Dragon Balls have protected him. It's strange. Maybe the Dragon Balls can do a little bit more than we expected them to do. But this is weird. This is a new mechanic for the series. And for a series that centers around Dragon Ball, it's really hard to take it seriously when characters kind of just come up with new mechanics, like as a throwaway line, basically. You know what I mean? But it's still cool. It's still cool. It just makes me think about the Dragon Balls a little bit deeper. It's a little bit bullshitty, though. I will admit, it's a little bit bullshitty. I believe the Namekians themselves it probably should have had to do with their physiology. I think that would have been a better cop out. But either way, it's cool. It's fine. I'm not hung up over that little thing. All right, and we cut back to the Vegeta and Moro fight. Again, Vegeta's knocking more and more energy out of Moro. The dude is coughing it up like it's blood or something. He is getting all the energy knocked out of him. And here we get, I think there's some dialogue here too with Vegeta. Vegeta he's still talking trash. He says Moro's gonna cough up every little bit of energy he's stolen since his last prison break. So now we're getting to the part I like to call the Piccolo fanboy part. And when I say fanboy, I'm not talking about myself being a Piccolo fanboy. I'm talking about Piccolo being basically a Vegeta mark. If you guys remember, I think ever since the Buu saga, there's kind of been this thing where Piccolo really kind of respects Vegeta, and it goes beyond respect. I think from Buu forward, there's been this subtle undercurrent of Piccolo kind of idolizing Vegeta in some ways. And you're going to see a lot of that here, so I'm going to explain a lot of this. You can think of Piccolo here as the fans too. So a lot of this stuff that Piccolo's going to say is kind of like fan interpretations of stuff, like the way fans will see this stuff. But I can't help but feel like the way Piccolo goes through this stuff, he's a not just Vegeta fanboy, but that he's also a bit of a Goku fanboy as well. And you guys are going to see what I'm saying, so let me just get to it. Okay, so Piccolo right off the bat says, hey, he's watching the Vegeta and Moro fight. He says, hey Goku, did you ever think he can grow this much? And Goku takes this a totally different way. He says, no, can't say I did. I didn't expect him to learn that new move, or get this strong. So he thinks Piccolo is just talking about Vegeta's strength and the fact that he learned his technique. But I think many of you would have already picked up that Piccolo wasn't talking about that. So Piccolo continues, not in that sense. I can't get over how much he's grown as a person. And Goku's like, huh? And then Piccolo goes on to say, as Vegeta's still fighting Moro, by the way, Piccolo goes on to say, have you forgotten how once upon a time he showed up to invade the Earth? And look, he's fighting to protect this planet. So that's nothing new. Vegeta's been fighting to protect the planet for quite a while. For a while he's making excuses, like he was just saying like, oh, I'm just here to make sure nobody kills Kakarot or something like that. But essentially he's been fighting to protect the planet for a long time now. But Piccolo continues. He says, more than that, it's like he's trying to atone for the sins of his past. So now we're getting to a deeper thing with this particular arc, a deeper thing about Vegeta, which I really like about Vegeta. This whole arc has made me a Vegeta fan. I couldn't say I was previously. I just like the way he fought, his fighting style and stuff like that. And I liked what he added to the cast, but I was never a big Vegeta fan at all. But this chapter is actually making me more of a Vegeta fan. And Goku kind of doesn't really get it. He's like, sins, huh? And Piccolo further explains. He says, like the mass slaughter on Namek, or all those terrible things he did as part of Frieza's army. And for this part, Gohan and Jaco were listening into it, trying to see what he's talking about. And he continues. He says, I think he means to wipe the slate clean by saving our universe for Moro. Now, on the surface, you can say, like, how the hell does Piccolo know all this? And I was saying that when I first read the chapter. I'm like, how do you know all this? Like, why are you going into such detail here? But he can likely, we all forget sometimes that Piccolo does have a lot of mental mysticism. He has a lot of psychic abilities. He's able to do a lot of stuff just by meditating. He's able to sense a lot of spiritual things that other people can't sense. Like he was able to sense he was able to kind of in a way sense who Supreme Kai was, like his divine hierarchy. This likely is due to knowledge from Kami, but it's likely due to what he sensed inside him as well. So likely Piccolo is sensing all these conflicting desires from Vegeta, because Piccolo can sense from a person's ki. He can sense intent. He can sense evil intent. He can sense good intent, not accurately, because earlier in this chapter we find out that he almost let Moro's goons go, but he can sense intent. He's always been able to sense intent from Ki. But anyway, he's able to sense all this stuff from Vegeta, apparently, from either reading his mind, sensing his ki, or a combination of all that stuff. And Goku's like, is he really thinking about all that stuff? And Piccolo continues. He says, it's all because he met you, Goku. You've changed him. And Goku's like, who's me? Or he says, who, me? I just wanted to fight the strongest guys out there. And Piccolo continues. He's like, and that works for you. You haven't changed one bit from day one. You don't need to change. And Goku's confused. He's like, are you saying that's a good thing? And Piccolo just says, I wonder. So this is another interesting exchange. I'm just going to talk about this briefly. Goku's morality. That's what this exchange goes to talk about. So Goku's morality, his desires, his selfish desire to fight those who are stronger than him is pure. It is pure. In this universe, it is simply a force of nature. There almost is no morality inherent in Goku's desire, but the fact that he's become so strong means that his desire affects the entire galaxy, the entire universe at this point. So the fact that he wants to fight strong opponents almost got his galaxy wiped from existence. So the easy thing to do would be to say that Goku is a bad person because he's selfish, and his selfishness almost gets his friends and family killed. Ultimately, he is a hero, so you could say that the good aspects of his personality outweigh the bad aspects. But ultimately, the way I see him, he's a force of nature. You kind of have to just, if you're not him, if you're somebody else that lives in this galaxy, you have to work around him pretty much. So yeah, I feel Piccolo here. Like, I don't know if it's a good thing that you're like that, Goku, or if it's a bad thing. You've turned a lot of people from evil to good. Luckily, everything's worked out for you and worked out for the universe in the end, despite your selfishness. Thanks to the writers, pretty much. Thanks to Toriyama and Toyotaro. That's why everything works out good every time. But still, it could be good or bad. It's going to be good until it's bad. And as Vegeta's punching the mess out of Moro, Piccolo says that, look, it looks like Vegeta has managed to one-up you this time. And Goku says, yeah, but I'll surpass him again, just you wait. And this, people won't really look too much into this, but to me, there's something deeper going on here too. Just go into this for a bit as well. When Piccolo says it looks like Vegeta managed to one-up you, I don't think he's talking about actual techniques and power. That could be the case. I think he's talking about moral character here. I think because Goku morally is neutral for the most part, like Goku takes down bad guys who hurt people, but to some degree, as long as they aren't hurting the earth, Goku's kind of okay with it seems like. He doesn't proactively shut down bad guys, is what I'm saying. Goku's not a superhero. That's not who he is. He's just a guy who's really, really powerful, who really likes to fight. Now, if a bunch of these evil people weren't overtly trying to just destroy everything around him, Goku probably wouldn't care. Just the fact that he wished Frieza back kind of shows that. Or the fact that he promised Frieza he'd wish him back once the Tournament of Power concluded shows that fact. As long as people aren't affecting his friends and family around him, he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care. So in that way, in that neutral way, Goku it's almost like he's neutral morally. Like he's morally gray in a way. I would put him more on the positive side of neutrality, but he's still neutral. He's not somebody who tries to make the world right with their actions. He just lives his life, and it turns out the bad guys always find him for the most part. But Vegeta here is actually going out on a limb morally, and he's trying to um atone for the bad things he's done in the past. Goku's done some bad things in the past as well. For instance, those universes that were wiped out in the Tournament of Power, if those universes continue to stay wiped out, do you think Goku would atone for that at a certain point? Would he realize what he did? Would it affect him in any sort of way? I don't think so. I don't think this would affect him in any way. Like, if it weren't for the people around him, maybe somebody around him would convince him to do something about that if the other universes stayed erased. But I don't think it would affect Goku one way or the other, to tell you the truth. But with Vegeta here, those Namekians he killed, that affects him, and he's looking to make it right. So this is very interesting, because Dragon Ball doesn't really go into this sort of narrative of not too often anyway. It has happened before with Vegeta where he tried to atone for the bad things he did in the Buu saga. But here it's even bigger because he's taking it way back to something he did on Namek. So I appreciate that, and that was one of the things that got in the way of me actually liking Vegeta as a character, was the fact that that was never addressed, the bad things he did on Namek, because the Nameks he killed weren't wished back, as far as I know, because the Nameks that were killed by Frieza were wished back, and I think Frieza and his forces, but Vegeta was actively opposed to Frieza, and I believe they went out of their way to explain that those Nameks weren't wished back. So yeah, that always kept me from liking Vegeta, because I was like, man, this guy never paid for none of his crimes, and he's just getting more and more rewards. He's marrying characters, he's marrying Bulma of all people and all this stuff. He's shacking up with Bulma of all people. That made me not like Bulma for a while, because I'm like, this guy's a murderer, and you're just gonna, this guy's an unrepentant killer, and you're just gonna, let him in your house and have his baby and all that stuff. But yeah, this chapter is really making me a Vegeta fan. So anyway, my side tangents are over. Those are the more interesting parts of the chapter. We still have a lot more interesting stuff to get through, so let's just get to it. And Vegeta asks Jacko if he wants Moro captured dead or alive. And Jacko does not hesitate. He's like, dude, kill him. The only reason we didn't kill him before is because we couldn't. Dude was too strong. But you can do it now. End this MFer. End him right now. And Moro is on the ground. And Vegeta's like, I'm not naive like Kakarot. In his words, he says, I'm not a naive fool like Kakarot. And he says, you'll regret breaking out of prison forever once you're in hell. And Moro's like, he literally says, he's like, so you believe you aren't going to hell? And Vegeta says something really cool here too. He's like, when I die, naturally I'm bound for hell. So dude knows he's going to hell. And he knows this from when Piccolo told him before, during the Buu arc. He's like, at the end of the day, I'm the villain. I've been prepared for the consequences for quite some time. So he's been prepared ever since the Buu saga. Probably a little bit before. He probably had an idea that he knew that he was going to hell. Piccolo just pretty much confirmed it. And Moro's like, right. But yeah, that's another really cool little aside of Vegeta. So this chapter is giving us some really good insights into Vegeta's character. Dude knows he's going to hell, but he tries to do the right thing anyway. So you can't really, man, that's really cool. Like, at the end of the day, you're gonna be punished, but you still try to do the right thing. I just think that's really cool. And then he says, but you first, wait for me down there. Once I'm dead, I'll pop by to say hello, which was funny. Moro's laughing. So apparently he has some plans up his sleeve. If he's laughing at this point, he's either bluffing or he has some plans up his sleeve. And Vegeta says, what could possibly be so funny? Moro says, I have no intention of going to hell. And Vegeta's like, huh? And Moro doubles down. He's like, I'll be too busy ruling over the galaxy for all eternity. And everybody's confused by this. Vegeta's thinking he's listening to the ravings of a madman, because Moro barely has any power. And he's looking really old, by the way. He's back to full beard status. And he proclaims really loudly, really boldly that he still has his magic. Then he does something with his hands, and a big fissure of light erupts from under him. Really an explosion. An explosion erupted from under him, and he disappears. Everybody's wondering where he went. Jacko sees him because, Jacko has great eyesight, and he warns Vegeta that Moro went up into the sky. Vegeta chases after Moro. Looks like Moro made it to his airship before Vegeta could. Right away, Moro just vaporizes Shimareka. He turns Shimareka into a burnt steak, and then right away he encases 7-3 in this aura of energy. And he says, of course, that he kept 7-3 as a backup just in case. And he telekinetically summons 7-3 to him, and then he eats him. He eats the man. I don't know how he does this. 7-3 is still encased in energy. Maybe that helps him digest him like that. But he literally eats him with his mouth. He swallows the man whole. And 7-3 is in his body. So apparently Moro is either similar to Boo, and that he can just absorb somebody through eating them. It's also a little bit similar to Cell in a weird way. But I think he's doing this through magic, because the whole time 7-3 was encased in energy. So I think he's like maybe converting him into ki or something. I don't know. It's fucking weird. You guys got to see this panel. Vegeta right away tries to blow up Moro. He's like, I'm not having it. You aren't about to do something crazy. So he blows up Moro's whole ship. Everybody's wondering what the hell's going on. It's chaotic. It's pandemonium. Everybody's wondering about his allies. At least Piccolo is. And Moro emerges from the explosion, and right away Vegeta takes a dive. Moro does something to, I don't know, he does something, and it really hurts Vegeta. Vegeta falls from the sky and lands on the ground, and he's lost his Super Saiyan transformation. He's back to base form, and Goku proclaims that Moro's chi is back to normal. And then he says, no, wait, it's bigger than ever. And for some reason, Piccolo's like, where's 7-3? So I don't, he says, don't tell me he. So I don't know how Piccolo knows about 7-3. If anything, I guess he senses him. I just thought about it. He senses 7-3 inside of Moro. Because I was thinking before, I'm like, how the hell does he even, why is he even thinking about 7-3 at a time like this? Because if anything, he doesn't sense 7-3 or Shimareka. But yeah, he could probably sense the fact that Moro absorbed 7-3. And Moro lands. Everybody's checking on Vegeta. But Moro lands looking like friggin' Cell. Looking like freaking Cell. So you guys see this. He's looking like Moro fused with freaking Cell. I guess this is because 7-3 looks so much like Cell. But dude, look at that face and tell me that that's not perfect freaking Cell with goat horns. So 7 Moro 3, Moro 7-3. I don't know what to call this guy. Moro has absorbed 7-3 and is looking like Cell. What else can we say? He's stronger than ever. So there is more to this though. Everybody's wondering why his face changed. Piccolo's like, what did he do to 7-3? And Moro tells us what he did exactly. So this is strange, but it's kind of brilliant on his part. He says, it wasn't only my magic that I had 7-3 copy. And Piccolo's like, what do you mean? What else was in him? And Moro says, my combat abilities. I was able to create a complete backup within him. So what this means, right off the bat right here, is that 7-3, well, let's back it up a little bit. All the power that Moro had while he was at his peak performance was inside of 7-3. 7-3 had Moro's peak magic. 7-3 had Moro's peak power and his peak combat abilities, his peak techniques inside of him. And so now Moro, within his body, he wasn't completely out of power. He absorbed all that power back into himself. So he has all the power he had before, plus the little bit he had while he was fighting Vegeta. So he's a little bit stronger than ever. Not to mention it could have been some multiplications. And so everybody's like, when we cut to Gohan, he says, very surprised, you just absorbed 7-3? And Moro says, including his ability. This could mean a lot of things. This could mean that Moro has his power to copy people, which is likely what he's talking about here. It could mean that he's talking about his power level as well, all the power he acquired. It could also mean his ability for unlimited stamina. So if he has the ability to copy his power and his unlimited stamina, this guy's going to be a problem. He's already a problem. This guy's going to be even more of a problem. He says, this has restored me to my former glory and more. Alas, you people came so very close. And we cut to Piccolo, Gohan, and Goku stepping up to fight him. Jacko's reluctant behind them, but that's the end of the chapter. Really cool. So before I go into my thoughts about it, which I share with you guys for the most part anyway, what's crazy here is that Vegeta's new technique should be able to separate this Moro from 7-3, right? Because he's able to undo fusions and absorptions. This is likely both a fusion and an absorption, or an absorption at the very least. He ate the guy and took his powers. So this will put to test our theory on if Vegeta's technique can work on a cell level, a cell type of threat, something that absorbs, say, androids and then incorporates them into his being. This would be a test to see if this power work separates that too, which it might not, because Cell's thing is more science-based, more biological than it is spirit-based. So Moro here might have just done something to kind of replicate the thing that Dr. Gero created in Cell. He might have like replicated through magic Cell's absorption ability. So I don't really know. And who's to say that magic is affected by spirit fission? Who's to say that magic is affected by that? So that's another question mark on top of this. But yeah, this chapter, very interesting. A lot of questions. As you can see, my review is like almost an hour at this point. And with this part of it, it's probably going to go over an hour. Yeah, this chapter very interesting. All the stuff with Vegeta was very good, very interesting. From his reveal of spirit fission to his motivations for what he's trying to do, to the Namekians being restored, to Moro getting these 7-3 powers as well. A lot of interesting stuff, a lot of implications. The next chapter is going to be crazy, but this right here, another one of my favorite chapters in this arc. So I've had, I think, 3 or 4 really good, enjoyable experiences from this arc. So this will probably go down as my favorite arc in Dragon Ball Super. It's looking like it is for sure my favorite arc in the manga. No questions about it. This arc is very good in the manga. So I just have to wait and see what Toyotaro does next week. But you know what? I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. I feel like I talked your ear off enough. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter. Did you like it as much as I did? What do you think about Moro's new design? What do you think about Vegeta's new ability? What do you think about the implications this has for characters like Piccolo when it comes to splitting with like Nail or something like that? What do you think about the implications that this has against future fusion opponents? I'm curious to know what you guys think about this, because this chapter introduced a bunch of interesting new discussions into the series. So appreciate you guys for watching. Hope you guys take care. Hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and your loved ones during this pandemic. Till next time, guys. Peace.